All right, Shalom. First and foremost, I want to give all praise, glory, and honor unto Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Harakakodash, and double honors unto the apostles and elders of GMS Great Millstone, and a sincere Shalom to Yakim, bringing out this word in diligence and in truth. And so after, Elder Yashawamba did the, basically the video on, how Jake believes they can get themselves out of this hell, and how it's not I believe it was a dude Shaka Amos basically saying it's not the curses. Nor is it a spiritual reason as to why we're under this hell, but it's all physical, which that's completely untrue. And we're in this condition due to the fact that our spirits are off as a nation, man. And that's why Yahweh Shemel Shai is only coming back to save forth the remnant, the 144,000, 12,000 out of each of the 12 tribes that consist of men, and the 1/3 which consists of men, women, and children, man. But this is and Lord willing, I'll try to start a little series, probably like a 4 or 5 part series, just to show forth that every way Jake tried to build in this society has failed and is going to continue to fail. The power comes with repentance, man. So the first part, we're going to go on the financial and the economic side, right? So I asked ChatGPT, give me historical points of how African Americans, right, so-called Negroes, right, have tried to economically / financially build themselves up out from poverty. It says here are several historical efforts and movements where African Americans have worked to build economic and financial independence, especially in the face of systemic barriers. Hey, so even ChatGPT knows that Jake trying to build themselves out of the hell is a condition placed upon us by outside forces, which ultimately it's through the spirit and power of Yahweh Shemel Shai. You know that we're still in this position due to our disobedience. Matter of fact, this I'm gonna grab this out of the book of Proverbs. Oops. It's Proverbs 22:7. It says, "The rich ruleth over the poor, and the borrower is servant to the lender." Right? The borrower is servant unto the lender. The rich rule over the poor, and we're in the position of the poor, man. The destitute. Being that Jake is under the curses. Hey, you look at the ghettos. Hey, the barrios, it's the same as for the Southern Kingdom, the same for the Northern Kingdom, man. We are conditionally in chains, and it's due to us messing up. It's due to us breaking the laws of Yahweh Shemel Shai, man. It's that simple. So what do? Our job is to do what? Is to be as obedient as possible, and for you men to do what? To push this word in diligence and fear, right? So that we usher in Yahweh Shai as John the Baptist did. We come in that stead again. Right? This Deuteronomy 28:44. Matter of fact, I'm going to read 43. It says, "The stranger that is within thee shall get up above thee very high." And that's ultimately because Yahweh Shemel Shai put Esau in this position over us. Right? The scripture says in the book of Ecclesiastes, it says, "I have seen servants upon horses and princes walking as servants upon the earth." Esau is on that power seat, on that horse. Hey, and you have Yashar Allah, the princes of the power, walking the earth as a servant, man. Right? So it says, Deuteronomy 28:44, it's like at 43, "The stranger that is within thee shall get up above thee very high, and thou shalt come down very low. He shall lend to thee," right? Going into the banking systems, right? "He shall lend to thee, and thou shalt not lend to him. He shall be the head, and thou shalt be the tail." So let's get into it. It says, number 1, it says post-emancipation land ownership. Now we understand emancipation, or to be emancipated. Matter of fact, let's get this word emancipation, man. Emancipation. And emancipation is states. Come on now. It says emancipation, proclamation. It says a setting free, right? An action of setting free in modern use, especially of the freeing of a minor for parental control. Emancipation Proclamation, July 22nd, 1862, and that did nothing but set forth the private ownership unto corporate ownership, man. From plantation to corporation. That's essentially what happened with the quote-unquote emancipation, or the freeing of the slaves, right? It says set free from control. Now, how is it that we're set free from their control, yet you still have a birth certificate, yet you still have a social security card, yet you still need their permission and license in order to drive and travel wherever they deem acceptable, man? Right? You can't even have a garden in your backyard. You can't even teach and raise your children how you want to raise them, man. So where's the set free from control? Right? Showing you that was all BS. Right? And then that Emancipation Proclamation was signed, and you still had Jake that was on the plantation not knowing for years down the line. Right? So that shows you that absolutely means nothing. Right? So let's keep going, because we can get on just this one portion for the whole lesson, but I'm going to try to get through this. It says, after the Civil War, some African Americans acquired land. Jake acquired land and started farms, particularly in the South. Now, the thing about that is, this is also the point of sharecropping, right? And my grandma on my mother's side and my great grandma on my father's side, were actually a part of sharecropping, man. And my grandma on my mom's side is still alive. So, and she's told me stories about this. So that's 2 generations away, man, from my mother to her. But on my father's side, that's 3 generations away, from my father, his mother, to my great grandma. So that's not far away, man. People try to talk like slavery was years and years back. No, man, this is 3 generations for Jake, man. You know? So it says 40 acres and a mule was a promise that symbolized economic hope, though it was largely unfulfilled. So there goes the lies that Esau gave Jake in order to appease their minds and give them false hope, which he always does that. The term Indian given came from that, man. You know, promising Jake a particular substance and or material, and then taking it back, or killing them and then taking it back, right? It says black farmers built small communities and agricultural cooperatives despite significant opposition and violence. And who created that significant opposition and violence? By whose hands was it done through? Esau Edom, right? So this shows you, from the period of 1865 to the 1900s, that financial stability that Jake tried to acquire did not work. And why? Because ultimately when we go into the scriptures, back in Deuteronomy 28, matter of fact, I'm going to get it in a blue letter so I can go into this word buy, which you should know where I'm going, in Deuteronomy 28, right? There's 28 and 68. And it reads, and the Lord Yahweh shall bring thee into Egypt again with ships. By the way whereof I spake unto thee, thou shalt see it no more again. And there ye shall be sold unto your enemies for bondmen and bondwomen, slaves, and no man shall buy you. Now, when you go into this word buy, as we always go into, right? Because it doesn't mean you own the auction block and nobody is bidding to get you, because that didn't happen, you know. H7069, it says, of the Most High, originating, creating, redeeming his people. That's what the word goes back to be redeemed, right? We can't redeem ourselves. It has to be done for us. You can't buy your way out of this hell. When we read in Salaki, that was my last lesson, but right here in the Strong's, it says to what? To attain, to purchase, which the elect were purchased by the blood of Yahushai, right? It says to recover, to redeem, right? And that ultimate redemption is going to be done through salvation, right? That salvation of what? Of being beamed up by the chariots and out of thermonuclear destruction, which is the second death. And I want to grab this precept here in the book of Isaiah, the 59th chapter, right? Because it's going to speak on that redemption, right? It says, Isaiah 59 at the top, behold, the Lord's hand is not shortened that it cannot save, neither his ear heavy that it cannot hear, right? I want to go into this word save, right? Because we understand we're talking about a power, all knowing, all seeing, all doing. The only way we can be saved is through Yahushai, right? This H34, 67, the word is Yasa, or Yasha, which is really to deliver is Hawashai, or Hawashai Nawa, you know, right? Right, which is Hawashai now is deliver us, right? So Hawashai is the point, right? To deliver. It says to save, to be saved, to be delivered, to be liberated, woo, to save from troubles, to give the victory, to be victorious. So we won't be able to get the victory unless it be through who? Yahushai, man. That's the point. Now, matter of fact, I want to get that word liberated here. This is liberated, man. Liberated. There we go. It says liberated, liberate, to set free, to release from restraint or bondage. Free, not a slave. To free and occupy territory from the enemy, which we understand we're booties or spoils, right? Right now in the sight of the nations, because we're what's the word? We're products. We're owned, man. If you have a Social Security card, your property. You know, they trade that card, right? Your property. But the liberation comes when Yahushua delivers us. And that's the point, right? So going back to that Deuteronomy 28 and 68, no man shall buy you is redeemed, right? So we seen that the 1865 to 1900s, that didn't work due to the fact that we had those significant opposition and violence against us. Esau, Edom, when we go into the book of Ezekiel, the 35th chapter and the 5th verse, it speaks about that perpetual hatred. So let's go to the second point, the rise of black-owned businesses. It says entrepreneurs like Madam C.J. Walker, one of the first self-made female millionaires, use business to empower their communities. Now, about that, if she made millions, how much more did Esau make? And how much more did that dollar circulate to then to even now, right? It says Booker T. Washington promoted self-reliance through education and business in institutions like the Tuskegee Institute, which is a HBCU. But look at the state of the HBCUs today. The shittiest ran colleges, man. Trust. I've been to multiple on college trips, man. These PWIs, which are public white or privately white institutions, their campuses are far better, man. As brothers, you know. Take a look at Grambling. I don't know what it looks like today, but Grambling is in the hood, man. Their dorms and their student housing looks horrible. When we toured there, it was broken windows, you know, all different types. The AC didn't work. Morgan State, same. All these HBCUs are ran down, man. They're out of date. Their textbooks are trash, out of date, so forth and so on. But then when you go into these high level Edomite institutions, your Harvards, you know, your what's some more? Your Yales, your Princetons, your Pepperdines. Pepperdine is on the side of a fucking beach, man. You know, Jake don't have nothing like that. So even in the late 1800s to the early 1900s, the rise of black-owned businesses, it did what? Yeah, it allowed a few families of Jakes to get property. But at the end of the day, if all your nation isn't free, what good is 2 or 3? Right? It says Black Wall Street and other thriving communities like Greenwood and Tulsa, Oklahoma, were known as Black Wall Streets for their economic success. These areas had black-owned banks, shops, hospitals, and schools until many were destroyed by what? By racist violence. So there we go. Now we're at the 1920s, which America also calls what? The Roaring 20s, a time which promiscuity was in its highest, right? And what came after that? The Great Depression, man. So all that economic growth, quote unquote, that was achieved, all that shit fell in the 30s, right? Matter of fact, yeah, that's what I was about to grab right there in Ezekiel 35. Is Ezekiel 35 and 5, speaking about Esau, his perpetual hatred. It says, because thou hast had a perpetual hatred and hast shed the blood of the children of Israel by the force of the sword in the time of their calamity, in the time that their iniquity had an end. Therefore, as I live, saith Yahweh by Hashem Yahushai, I will prepare thee unto blood, and blood shall pursue thee. Since thou hast not hated blood, even blood shall pursue thee. Right? So that perpetual hatred, the Lord made sure that Jake won't be able to build up in the society, for the reason being that Jake's spirit was off. Every time we got closer and closer, or it's like it further and further away from Yahweh Hashem Yahushai, the worse we were off as a nation. Every time we got nigh back into the Lord, guess what happened? We were getting blessed. Right? The enemies were being subjected unto us. Hence why King David had that 40 years. Hence why King Solomon had that 40 years. And right after that, what? The kingdom split and Jake began to go off. And you see how in the time of judges, right? In the time of kings, we constantly getting our ass whooped by the heathen, man. Constantly going into captivity due to our disobedience and us following after idols. Us, calling upon the names of the other gods of the nations. Right? Following the heathen. Being Gentiles. Right? That Gentile state of mind. So Jake was doing that and doing what? getting beat up, getting persecuted, getting killed because we weren't nigh unto the Lord, man. It's that simple. So all of these, you see how after every one of these points, it speaks about being destroyed by racist violence or opposition. The Lord has allowed Esau to be a weapon to punish us because you can't get out of here economically. Our strength isn't in the dollar, a Edomite face on it. Our strength isn't in building black wealth. When has a kingdom ever ruled within a kingdom? They don't make any sense. The only way another kingdom can rise is the previous or the captives have to what? Ultimately be freed, or that kingdom has to fall. That's why kingdoms are translated, man. Because what? One kingdom fights against another nation, and what? That strong nation ultimately falls underneath the other strong nation, and all those the wealth, so forth, land, people are then what? Transferred into the nation who won the war. And guess what? You can't fight your way out of this. So don't think that either, man. That's another lesson. Hey, but I'm 1 second. Here we go. This is Black Wall Street. We read that, and it was multiple communities like Black Wall Street. You know, it wasn't just Tulsa, Oklahoma. There were various ones. You know, the State Park in New York, that was a thriving J community, right? But you see what happened. Dodger Stadium, that was a thriving J community. Hey, you even have news coming out of how lakes, you know, where one is a few lakes. What's that? In Natchez, Mississippi, Devil's Punch Bowl. You know, that was atrocity done unto Jake there. You know, it says this for cooperative economics and mutual aid societies throughout the 20th century. African Americans formed credit unions, insurance mutuals, and bureau societies to pool resources. And here goes Jake going right into the idols again. The Nation of Islam and other black-led religious organizations encourage business ownerships and economic independence. So what did the Lord do? He allowed Esau to infiltrate it and destroy that wicked-ass movement that Jake was doing.